Gamb.
Hi, dear.
How are you?
I'm very hot. I have 2 fans going. It's like 30 degrees, and it's not even properly summer yet. Send help.
I can't do that. Barry,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
What's a podcast?
I'm not sure.
What's a podcast?
It's
I
not
don't
like
know,
we-
about $2.
God damn. So we watched 2007, The Host, a Korean film.
2007?
2007. Doesn't
Did
look
you
like
see
it
those
did.
flip
2006.
phones, Gam?
Those flip phones, yeah.
Well, true. Flip phones were...
They were all the rage in 2007.
It was a...
Oh, shit.
That
I
was
thought
the
we
year
watched
of
the
the
2000... I thought we watched the 2013 Stephanie Meyer film, The
my
Host.
God,
Oh no,
fuck
I
that.
took notes for the wrong movie.
Oh, no!
That is
Well,
a terrible
shit.
movie. Don't ever watch it.
I wasn't
planning on it.
So it's a horror movie that's more a monster movie and more sci-fi thriller than a horror movie. It's also got a little bit of comedy in there. It's pretty good.
I mean, every movie has a bit of comedy in it.
From
Yeah.
the right
I
perspective.
wouldn't really call it a comedy. Yeah, well, from a certain point of view.
So
I was excited. I'd been meaning to watch this movie for 13
Yeah.
years, so...
I'll be honest, like, half the reason I was okay with doing this podcast is because it's gonna finally get me to watch movies that have been on my list for years, but I've
Yeah.
never gotten around to watching it. This was at, like, number 10 on the list.
yeah,
The one that Barry suggested is, like, number 7.
yeah,
Oh, Attack
So-
the Block?
yeah.
Is that a spoiler?
We absolutely no, that's not a spoiler. I
Fucking
absolutely.
well-
Okay.
I'm gonna make
Now
Gam
we
watch
can't ever
Attack the
watch it.
Block. Yeah, no,
'Cause I
we're
was
gonna
talking
watch
to-
Attack the Block.
I was
Don't worry
talking to
about
Deer
it.
on Discord about, like, monsters and stuff we'll probably talk about in this conversation in a bit, but I was like, Attack the fucking Block, and Deer was like, I know, and I was like, good.
I love that movie. It's,
It's
so
good. It's so good. That's not
It's-
what we're talking about today,
It's
though.
not what we're talking about.
If you guys
No.
watch
so-
Attack the Block, I have to be on that podcast, okay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Deal.
Okay.
Deal.
Done.
So, both of you, what the fuck happened in this movie?
Stuff.
Give me a
We live in
play-by-play.
a society.
I missed the first couple minutes, but apparently that wasn't very important. It's like, I sat down and started
missed
watching
the
the movie,
setup.
and it was just like, oh, there's a monster hanging from a bridge, and I was like,
Okay, well here I'll fill you in because I've got notes from up
Yes.
to that point, and I know the exact point because that point where you joined then was where my notes say poggers, not poggers, lizard, not poggers. I repeat, not poggers.
this is a news alert bulletin, not poggers.
News
I
alert
repeat,
bulletin, not poggers.
not poggers.
Anyway, so we opened up on a lab. Wow, fancy lab. We have an American guy and a Korean guy. And American's like, hey, we got these bottles, they're covered in dust, so pour the stuff out of the bottles and get rid of the bottles? I never really understood his reasoning for pouring the stuff out of the bottles.
The bottles were extremely old and expired, so they were like, let's just pour them out, basically.
Oh, I missed the expired bit. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's like, get rid of the expired chemicals, and the other guy's like, I don't know if that's a good idea, sir. And he's like, I'm American. I don't care what's gonna happen. You will do what I say. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll just do this. I'll pour these 10 bottles by the looks of it. And then the camera does a lovely dolly shot as we see the hundreds of bottles of... well, at least formaldehyde was the first bit of chemicals, but like every other bottle was like unlabeled or the label was unreadable. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we got a chemical cocktail that going in the river. And he's like, I don't know if we should do this. But the American was like, hey, listen, we got a broad range of chemicals. The river is a broad river, so like... We'll be like he literally says that.
Yeah, he does.
He literally said the river's pretty broad, so don't worry about it. It's
No,
not going to affect anything.
I believe he says the river is broad, so you need to have a broad,
That's
thought.
it. A
A
broad mind.
perspective.
A broad
Yeah,
perspective.
broad perspective. Yeah.
That is
So he
very
pours
good.
pours it all through, and like, we cut to the river. I don't know if it's immediate or if there's like a tiny bit of a time dilation there.
There's a
but
little
there's
bit.
two boys chilling in a river, 1 feet apart because they're husbands, and they're fishing, and they're holding a cup to the water for some reason, and like you hear that boom, boom. The T-Rex is walking. The T-Rex is walking towards them. You get a boom, boom, and then suddenly the cup just like drops in the water. He's like, "Oh no, my cup! My daughter gave me that. It's very important. Remember that."
Mm-hmm.
So he picks up the cup, and then a fish is swimming away. And he's like, "How many tails did that have?" And he's like, "I don't know. I wasn't counting. I was looking after my cup." Anyway, smash cut immediately to 4 years later. So we know immediately. Okay, Mr. Broad River has a fucking not very broad mind when it comes to chemicals affecting wildlife. 4 years later, the guy who I assume was the one who poured the chemicals down is standing over a bridge, gonna kill himself. And some guy's like, "What are you doing? Oh no, don't do it!" And he's like, "There's something dark in the water." They're like, "This is my fault. There's something in the water." And the guy's like, "What are you fucking on about? Are you fucking stupid? Like, what's wrong with you?" They literally just like insult him while he's about to jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, you morons, there's clearly something in there, but you're ignoring it, and it's going to become a problem, but oh well, I'm just going to go ahead and jump. Smash cut, title screen, ding.
He does
The host.
actually jump, by the way.
He
Oh.
does jump, yeah, he does.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Okay.
We cut to a man sleeping peacefully at a stall. A little kid's about to steal some food, but a guy comes up and takes the kid away. Phew. Another person comes up and is like, "I want this," and then an older guy comes up and goes, "Oh, here, let me do the transaction for you." And he's like, "Oh shit, where's the coins?" Lifts up the guy who's sleeping's head, and the coins are underneath his head. Oh man, that's gonna leave marks on his face. I've been there. And
I think we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not good. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
So he chastised this man who's sleeping there, and he's gone. "Come on, just get up. We need 3 squids for mat number 4." And it's like, get your squids on. So he goes out the back. It's very clear this man doesn't seem to be good at anything. He seems to be a sleepy boy. Doesn't really want to do anything. He eats a leg off a squid that has 10 legs. So he just pulls it off, and then he trips while he's walking because he sees his daughter run up, finish school. And he's like, "How you doing? Wow, I'm a good father now." And his daughter's like, "Man, my phone is so shit. Like, I can't get reception anywhere. Like, I really wish I had a better phone. Like, you're a bad dad. Give me a better phone. But hey, granddad, you're good." And then we learn, okay, so the older man, he's the grandfather, father of this dude. We're getting family relations set up. Who, what, when, where. Good. And so he's like, "New phone costs a lot of money, though. We're very clearly poor. But it's alright. I have this tub filled with dimes. I'm sure it'll add up one day."
I think that's when I started watching, because there's
Yeah.
a big old bucket of dimes.
Has a big old bucket of dimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, "Oh man, the sports are on soon. Like, change the channel. Like, we gotta watch the sports. Like, who cares about some dead body that's been found? Let's go sports. Give us sports." And he's like, "Okay, cool. We're watching the archery. The archery's on." He's like, "Here, drink beer, little daughter."
Thanks, dear.
God damn it, dear. Deer has just confirmed that squid have 10 limbs whilst fish have 0.
Yes.
Apparently it's a common follow-up search on Google, is how many limbs do fish have?
Yeah.
I mean, do fins count as limbs?
That's
No.
what Google's here to answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important question. So they're like, okay, grandfather comes back and is like, "Listen, you're watching sports, you and your daughter are drinking beer, but like, you very clearly took one of those limbs of off the squid. They didn't like that, so you're gonna go to that mat number 4 and give them. You're gonna give them some free shit to say sorry." He's like, "Fine, I guess, whatever." And he's starting walking over, and people are like, "Hey, there's some in the river under the bridge." And I was like, "What? What's under the bridge?" Everyone's looking. It's like the someone's dropping something in the bridge or pulling something out, and you can see something dangling off the bridge, and you're like, "Whoa, that looks cool."
What did
And
you think it looked
dives
like?
in the water.
What
What are you saying?
What did you think it looked like?
I mean, honestly, it kind of looked okay. Well,
Barry, what did you think?
Have
it
you
It
looked
looked
ever
like a
played-
big old bag of garbage.
I was gonna say it kind of looked like a Super Mutant sack from Fallout, because they have they have nets filled with dead bodies that they just hang over bridges and stuff because they'll
gotcha.
get to it later to eat it. So it kind of looked like that to me. So it's like, oh wow, well, where did it go? I don't know. Oh hey, let's throw a can of beer and let's throw a can of beer at it. Maybe it's hungry.
Looks hungry.
And then everyone starts throwing food in the water.
But they're throwing like
And then-
garbage. They're not like, oh, here's some bread. It's just like, here's a closed can of beer.
I think one person
I
threw
mean-
beer nuts. That's something.
Yeah. Immediately he was like, it likes beer. Maybe it likes beer nuts, and throws beer nuts in. And then while everyone's throwing food, suddenly you hear some screaming, and you turn and oh shit, that's a big lizard.
Oh,
Also, I want it noted because I wrote it down. One of them said it must be an Amazonian river dolphin.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the
So then-
the American, right?
Was it?
No,
I
No,
it
there was
wasn't.
a Pakistani guy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. It was a Pakistani guy.
So what is?
So they all
what
start
is-
running.
What is an Amazonian river dolphin?
Well, it's a dolphin that lives in the Amazonian River, dude. Duh. Keep up.
Okay,
Clearly someone
fine.
hasn't studied their anthropology.
Uh-huh.
Are you gonna do a play-by-play of the entire movie like this, Gamb?
This is generally
Feel free
how
to step in at any moment.
I was
if you
gonna
want.
say,
Yeah.
like, I thought you were just getting me caught up on the like couple minutes that I missed. It's like,
Yeah.
we're good
Well,
now.
I am, but now that we're here, okay,
Okay,
we can
yeah,
skip
yeah.
forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So the lizard has killed everyone and taken over the world. All hail our new Amazonian river dolphin overlord. Lizard's on land and it's hungry. It's running around killing people, left, right, center. Everyone's getting fucked. Everyone's
Okay.
getting fucked by the lizard.
Hey, Mary, what happened at that point? Everybody's getting
Sorry,
fucked
I
on the
got a little
river.
bit distracted. My AC just kicked on, so I was adjusting my mic so it wouldn't pick up.
Oh.
What's up? How are we doing? Welcome. Hi.
I was asking you what happened. The lizard's killing people.
Yeah. It jumps around, and then our hero and the American kind of try to fuck it up as it's eating people.
Steve Rogers.
It's like a Steve Rogers, the whole thing. I was actually going to mention earlier when you were talking about the American Scientist that something that I appreciate about this movie is like I've seen a lot of foreign films that have like a token American guy, and usually it's obvious that like he was hired because he looks American, not because he's actually an actor. And like generally speaking, I thought the American actors were pretty good.
I forget his name. He's in a whole heap of other things. He's oh god. I'm gonna fucking that's it. I'm looking it up because I know he's in something, but I forgot his name. Keep
That's
going,
fine.
Barry.
I mean, that was essentially the whole thought. Just like whenever there's American, you know, it's not like, oh my god, this is the best acting ever, but it's like, oh yeah, no, this is fine.
Yeah.
I thought it was legit. I mean, obviously, I've seen Snowpiercer, so like,
Oh,
I feel like
I'm so sorry.
I still no, the movie, not the show.
oh, I forgot there was
I-
a show. No, the movie was great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot there was even a show, but Bong Joon-ho seems to be able to direct across language barriers just fine. which
Yeah.
is-
He also seems to be able to make good stuff.
Yeah, I
Paul Lazar?
Parasite. Oh.
The
How come
Paul
this movie
Lazar, the
wasn't
US
called Parasite?
doctor?
Huh? There was no hosting.
I don't know.
We kept joking about a dinner party, and I wanted it to happen.
Right?
Ah, that's right. He's that doctor from The Walking Dead.
Yes.
That was his name.
Oh.
Yeah, Scott.
So anyway,
Was that the same doctor from early in the movie? The part
Yes.
you're talking about? Okay,
Yeah.
that
No,
makes sense.
no.
yes.
No?
That's the doctor that Deer's talking about. That's not the same doctor.
I thought it was.
No, it's not. This is the doctor from the first bit in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Scott
Gotcha.
Wilson.
Yeah.
They look
Gotcha.
completely
Because I
different.
immediately saw him and I was like,
Right.
I know this guy from somewhere.
Right. You're right.
But no, I mean, I'm just curious because, you know, I never listened to this podcast because I'm a terrible friend.
It's okay.
Is the point that we're recapping the whole movie, or are we
Yes.
gonna talk about
Re-
other
no,
things?
well, recap it, but like skip the minutia that doesn't really matter. So basically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically what happens is Lizard goes on a rampage. The entire time I'm going, okay, we seem to have 3 generations of characters here. One of them's gonna die. Which one is it gonna be? And every time it's cut to a new scene, I was like, okay, so it's gonna be this one. Okay, so it's gonna be this one. And the little girl walks out of the trailer and is like, okay, it's very clearly going to be the little girl then. But then she starts running around. I'm like, okay, maybe it's going to be the grandpa. And then the father grabs the girl's daughter and starts running, and then slow motion turn around. Oh shit, it's not his daughter. And I was like, okay, it's the daughter that's going to die.
Oh.
And then we cut to the daughter getting eaten.
Yep.
And yeah.
Well, also he falls while hurrying his daughter along, and then picks up the hand of the wrong girl, which is a pretty solid moment. Because you just have all these close-ups, and the camera works really frantic, and it just cuts over, and it's just this completely different girl, and he just goes, oh. And then slow-mo looks over and is like,
I was gonna say, there's also like the father of that daughter that comes up and like takes her, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
He's just like,
honestly,
get away.
if Bong Joon-ho didn't if he wanted to do like a wide angle zoom on the daughter, like as the lizard's behind her, I would have been completely behind it because it would have been hilarious. Just like wide angle, like she's in focus and it zooms in to see her, and you see the lizard coming towards her. But no, he just does a simple wide angle, which okay, works. It's not hilarious, but it works.
Yeah.
So
because he wasn't going for comedy.
At this point in the movie, we're part of like the same scene of just like, hey, we are still in that same narrative thread from like, hey, what's that thing hanging from the bridge? And in that time, we've seen, okay, it's this weird blobby thing that falls down. No, it's like a four-legged kind of lizard amphibian-looking thing with big like gums and teeth in the front. So like now we see it's using its tail. It has like a very like useful tail that it uses to do stuff. And it's like you learn a lot about this monster in the very first scene that it shows up.
Oh yeah.
And, I know, right? It's almost like Bong Joon-ho's like a really good filmmaker.
Right?
But it's something that I wanted to bring up, that like it's one of the things I realized about halfway through was like, oh, this is why I like this movie. It's because, a lot of monster movies focus on the monster being the main selling point. It's like, we have a cool monster, and that's why you're here. So that means we're going to hold it back. We're going to only show you little hints, little glimpses, a claw here, a slither around the corner in the shadows here, there. And
you mentioned Godzilla earlier.
Yeah, I was talking about Godzilla when Deer and I were chatting earlier. The newer Godzilla from a couple years ago, like the entire movie is like, oh, there's Godzilla, and then they cut away to show something else before you get to see the big monster fight. And it's like, when you constantly give the audience blue balls, it's like, I can't think about anything else now.
Also, we know what Godzilla looks like.
Right. So it's like, that's not even a great example, but it's just like taking that trope to an extreme where it's like, I'm not enjoying the experience, because the mystery about your monster is more interesting than anything else that's happening. I'm trying to think of a non-Godzilla example, but it's basically like any monster movie you can think of where they're just like, oh, like you don't get to see what the monster is, and you're learning about it. Like Cloverfield. Like I actually enjoyed Cloverfield, but that's a movie where you never see the monster till like the last 5 minutes of the movie, and it just leaves you wanting to know more about it.
Even in the last 5 minutes of the movie, you don't see him that much.
I feel like Cloverfield, though, is like... Cloverfield is not meant to be about the monster, but they make the mistake of, like, constantly teasing you with the monster, when it's like, the monster doesn't matter and isn't the point. The point is that something is going on causing chaos, and you're following the eyes of someone through it. But because they keep teasing, like, oh, you never see what the monster looks like.
Here's a new thing that the monster can do.
Makes you feel like it's meant to be a monster movie.
But I mean, that's the thing with every monster movie is not about the monster, right? I mean, generally speaking, it's like, here's this human situation, this human drama that's taking place. The monster is pushing these characters into extremes, and we're seeing how they react and how they solve problems and stuff. The monster is just...
Which is why this movie's good.
Right, because from the first fucking scene, it's just like, here's the monster, here's how it works, here's not everything. You don't leave the movie knowing exactly everything about this monster, why it does the things it does, the way it works. But you learn enough that you're like, I get it, now I can pay attention to the characters. I'm not just like, oh my god, I don't care. What's going on with the monster? What, it can make, like, babies? Like, what's happening?
Yeah,
like,
we never get that scene of... We never get that scene of the scientists coming in to tell our main characters, well, we've analyzed it, and we can tell it's keeping these people here to eat later, and directly telling the audience what the monster does and like what its motivation is. It's like, we don't fucking need that. You can show that, and they did in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, we don't need to know what it fucking does, because like we get what we need to know. The rest doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's something that I really, really enjoyed about it, because yeah, as I said, I like halfway through, I was like, you know what? There's a reason why I'm invested in this family and their relationships with each other, their past. It's because the monster isn't at the forefront of my mind all the time. It's just like it's a threat, but I'm not wondering like, oh,
I was gonna say, wow,
what's up?
spoilers.
It's a threat, but it's not the focus.
Yeah.
Spoilers. We haven't even brought in the family yet.
Yeah, we have.
Well, yeah,
No.
we have. We just haven't mentioned the fact that the Olympian that they were watching was actually the guy's sister and the daughter's aunt. That's what we haven't mentioned.
Right, but they
Speaking
reveal
of
that in
which-
that scene.
Speaking of which,
Yeah, they reveal it in that scene.
Yeah, so it's not really a spoiler.
Yeah, so then like we get the funeral procession for all the people dead by lizard.
That was jarring for me.
yeah,
We go from like daytime panic, people are running around, the monster jumps back in the water and swims away with the daughter, and you're like, oh no, and then it's just like smash cut to we're in a giant room and everyone's crying.
yeah.
Maybe it
honestly,
was
I
just meant to
didn't-
be jarring, and it's just like it's
I think it was meant to be, but also I think it was meant to be just sort of like, okay, we've everything we can get out of that scene, we've gotten out of it, and like the rest you don't need to see. You don't need to see the monster diving down and going out of. Like, you don't need to see like,
Yeah.
of him like looking and like I can't see it anymore. Where did it go? Oh, I
and
guess it's gone. And like the military arriving, going, where did the monster go?
yeah.
Like you don't
I guess
need that. It's already kind of implied.
Was that when the shot happened, or was that later when they were setting up all the barricades at the water line?
So they evacuated everybody. There was the whole bit that we were saying, like, guys, just wait till everybody's gone.
Because they're like
guys.
blocking people in with
Yeah,
barricades.
yeah.
Yeah, and then it cuts to them being quarantined
it
in an
cuts-
area
yeah.
where they're all mourning.
So it wasn't as jarring as I remember, but
It was like two cuts. It was like the scene of you see across the river the monster put the daughter in its mouth and go underwater, hit the father trying to swim. It then cuts to the nighttime where they're being evacuated. It's very clear they haven't solved anything and the military's come in. And then it's cut again to the funeral procession for everyone. And they're like, okay, so the daughter's dead. The aunt got a bronze medal because she just doesn't know when to let go of that arrow. She lets go too late, and because
She
of it,
doesn't know how to let go.
Chekhov would be proud of her.
also the drunkle shows up.
Yeah, the drunkle shows up, a drunk uncle, and he gets drunk.
Who's a
then-
college graduate, but doesn't have a job,
Unemployed.
and I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
he's just the shame of the family.
Yeah, yeah.
Black
So it's
sheep.
Something like that, yeah.
He's the black sheep
Yeah.
of the family.
Ah,
So then we get what I'm assuming was a little bit improvised because it looked improvised. Their essential sadness with coming to grips with the death of the daughter, and you just see photographers circle around them and take photos, and a little bit on the nose
So-
there.
So the sadness itself was not. The fact that drunk uncle jump kicks our main character was.
Okay. So there was a bit of improvisation in there. Then it cuts to night. We learn that like the dad is kind of narcoleptic in a like he's constantly tired of everything and doesn't really do anything much with his life, and also he's a bit of a pervert, but that doesn't really matter. It
He was
doesn't
just
come
itchy.
up at all, really.
He was just itchy.
Yeah, he was just itchy in his crotch. That's
Yeah.
why he's put his hands down his pants while he
Yes.
was sleeping.
Yes.
Yes.
He was itchy and his
Actually,
hands
yes.
were cold. What do you want?
I mean, you know what? I can relate to that.
Honestly.
Yeah, and then the government comes in, and we get the whole.
I love that
shit,
scene.
by the way, it is such
He's
a good
just
scene.
like,
The
"Hey, guys."
the guy's little flare with his arm, like when he's like the little flare when he's like, "Put your hand up." He like
Oh, yeah.
twirls his hand. It's amazing. I love it.
So you should go back a little bit, just like when they're fighting the monster, and like they hit it with this big sign. He gets monster blood splashed on his face, and that
yeah,
becomes
he
significant.
he gets the blood of the monster, not monster blood. This isn't Goosebumps, Barry.
Fine.
It could be.
It's splattered across his face. He's like, "Oh man, that was disgusting."
Gross.
Because he slams a stop sign's like concrete ass into its tail. And now back to my favorite government man. He comes in a full hazmat suit, being like, "Hey, yo, anyone come into contact with that monster? Just put your
Just
hand up.
asking,
Put
just
your
asking
hand
for a
up."
friend. It doesn't matter. You're not in trouble. Just like let me know if
Yeah.
you got in contact with the monster.
And then, like, only one or two people put their hands up, and he's like, okay, I know you're not telling the truth, just fucking tell me. And then Drunkle stands up and like, why don't you tell us what's going on first, and then we'll put our hands up.
What's going on?
Yeah, he's like, tell us what's going on, and then we'll think about putting our hands up. And he's like, okay, the news will explain what's going on. And so he goes to the TV and tries to switch it onto the news, and he's like, the news isn't on. Well, you gotta get out of here. And then Smoke enters the room, and like, but other yellow hazmat suits come on, and there's a 2319 because main character goes, oh yeah, I got blood on my face. And the guy's just like, get him!
They just zip him up into a sleeping bag and take him away.
Yeah, they just zip him in the it's a body bag, essentially.
Yeah. He was having a sleepover.
And then we're at a hospital, and they're like, when can we go home? And he's like, you ain't going fucking home, there's a virus. Like, people who have come into contact with that monster, therere's a virus in them.
But no one's wearing a
like,
mask.
Oh no!
Oh no! Topical! Oh no!
Oh god, yeah, I will admit, the virus parts of the movie are just depressing.
Yeah.
Especially with how it ends, it's like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. And so the father's like, oh man, it feels like there's something squirming under my skin, just like, scratch me, daddy. And then the doctor comes in and is like, wait, you're not allowed to be fed after midnight, because you've got to have tests in the morning, so don't eat food. And so, of course, the next scene is him sneaking in food to eat.
Smash cut to him eating food after dark.
Yeah. And then he gets a phone call. It's his daughter. She's still alive. Oh. She's in a sewer somewhere.
Oh.
Gaspu. And so he's like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, where are you? She says, sewer. How the fuck would I know where I am? It's a sewer.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? Like, what kind of fucking question is that? Like, I mean, look around. There's concrete. There's great
smells
bars.
like poop.
What do you fucking want?
Kind of dark.
Mm-hmm. It's actually very well lit in that sewer.
Yeah, it is very well lit. Some might say a little bit artificially lit, but you know what? I'm fine with that.
Of course, the sewer's artificially lit. It's underground, Gamb.
Well, technically, this one wasn't like completely underground. It was like just under like a bridge type area. Like there was a tunnel leading.
Well,
to
they
it,
didn't establish
like
how far into that tunnel it was. I assumed it was quite a bit into there.
Yeah. Anyway, the lizard does like a sweet fucking backflip to get into the tunnel where she is.
Yeah. That's not.
Like,
is that the first time we see it with its Spider-Man moves, or is that later?
Yeah, that's the first time we see it do a flip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, because
the Spider-Man moves come back a little bit after.
But they like plant the seed that like this thing's got some moves.
Yeah. Yes.
They get the spider bite in there of the Spider-Man moves. Yeah. So like, there's all these dead bodies, and it's like it's not really clear if it's keeping them there for food or for other reasons. Possibly just food. Who knows?
My theory at that point was that it's trying to get together a dinner party, and it is ... the host.
Oh yes, of course. The title of the movie, The Dinner Host.
Yeah.
And the sequel, Knives Out, where they all get together and eat the food.
Mm-hmm.
So next the father's like, "Hey, trace the call. My daughter's alive. Trace the call. You'll find her." And the policeman is like, "You're crazy, man. That monster doesn't keep people alive. It eats people."
To defend, I mean, the policeman was an asshole. To defend him a little bit, the dad was just like, she's dead, but she's not dead. Like, he was, in shock and, like, still freaking out. But, like, he was not really making a lot of sense. It wasn't, like, normally that's super tropey, and he's just like, no, like, he's, like, extremely lucid, very clear, and they're like, no, you're not making any sense. And he's like, no, he was not making sense. And the policeman was like, you're not making sense. It was kind of fun.
Still, though, the policeman could have been like, you know what? I'll still check up on it anyway, just in case.
Right, because, then the rest of the family steps in going, no, he's telling the truth, and don't mind him. He's just a little bit nuts. But, like, look into this.
Yeah,
and
he's just
like,
a little bit nuts because, he lost his fucking daughter.
Yeah, it's a little understandable. But I still enjoyed, like, there were a lot of little, like, subversions of tropes where it's, like, a little bit more grounded. Where it's like, yeah, people are not acting perfectly logical. And not just for the sake of, I'm going to open this door that clearly has the monster behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where the we live in a society aspect of the movie steps in.
Yeah.
And so the grandfather's like, "Hey, Drunkle, you don't you have like a friend who's
Well, no, that was Grandpa.
brother-in-law?" Yeah, Grandpa is like, "Hey, Drunkle, don't you have a friend's partner's brother-in-law who's a police officer? Like, we could talk to them and they could help us." And Drunkle's like, "What the fuck are you talking?" Like, yeah, they'll really help us out. They even know who I am. So we cut then to Father sitting there getting his tests and everything, and then suddenly there's a commotion in the hallway, and it's the family running, and they're like, "Fucking leg it!" And so Father is like, "Oh shit, we gotta fucking run!" And they're knocking people over.
Like, obviously it plays out a little differently, but the first impulse is like, "Oh, this is the plan. Just run. Just make a scene and run."
Yeah, yeah, I know, right? So they're running, they get in an elevator, and he's like, "I got people picking us up." And it's like, "They're in this car park." Wait, what did I just say? Where are they?
I love the
Tell me what I just
that.
said.
They're so good.
Oh, little character moments are so good.
Yeah.
So they get in a truck, and they drive away, and everything's fine.
They change their clothes, but he doesn't change his hair.
Yeah.
Now they're
not
wanted.
yet.
They're on the lam.
Now they look at a news broadcast and they're wanted, and like one of the doctors who Father knocked over is like saying, "Oh, he knocked me over, and I think he gave me arthritis. I'm gonna have to get checked for it. It might affect me for the rest of my life."
He gave me arthritis. What was with that camera angle, by the way, for the news interview?
Yeah, that was. I think it was because she was meant to like trying to be anonymous.
No, I
but,
get
like,
that,
it was a
but
weird
there's
camera
so
angle.
many ways to film someone that's not like here's basically looking up their legs.
To clarify, it was literally like an under the table shot, like looking at her knees in a short kind of nurse outfit. It was just like,
Yeah, we were like
okay.
10 centimeters away from a Basic Instinct situation.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many ways you can film something by being like, there's a person here talking, but we're not going to show you identifying features. And I was just like, why this angle?
So we then realize Grandpa has spoken to some crime people and has essentially given away his entire life, everything he owns, his assets, his money, his credit cards, everything, just to get them
they're
out.
like, oh, the
because
hazard
they're
pay,
extorting
plus,
him for it.
like, we had to, like, run away from a police officer, so it's going to cost.
Yeah, plus the map.
Yeah.
Don't forget the map.
We printed it on the back of a napkin. And...
So they get in a disinfection truck and they're going to go to the sewers to search for the daughter because they've got a map, they've got the know-how, they're going to do it, they're going to find her.
Yeah, they
so
basically have to enter the
and...
quarantined area in order to find where the daughter might be.
This is the hard part. They get through a checkpoint and we get the scary, tense scene. And he's like, "Here, I'll give you..." Shit transpires and he's like, "The guy doesn't seem to really believe they're legit." And then the grandfather's like, here's your bribe.
For a second. He walks up and he's just like, "Hey, take off your mask." Like, what's going on?
He literally knows who he is.
Yeah.
Like, "Hey, are you that one guy? Take your mask off. Stop. Just stop."
Yeah, and then he's like, "Okay, well, here's all I have for a bribe," and then drives off. And he opens up the plastic bag, and it's the dimes from earlier.
So, you know what tripped me up about that scene is that would be a heavy, heavy bucket. And they just act like they're just like passing this little plastic bag back and forth.
So
it does look like it has a bit of drag.
A little bit, but not like a giant bucket of dimes.
But it's not a giant bucket. It's just like a ramen cup that they emptied out.
Yeah, it's just a ramen cup.
That's fair. It felt bigger.
It would still be heavy, but not heavy enough to like rip the bag. It would just like.
I'm not saying it should rip the bag,
it would
but
just
it just
do the
didn't
dip.
seem like there were that many dimes. But
yeah, but it was
whatever.
heavy enough that he wouldn't
Listen, there
immediately
were
be
some
like, "This
quarters
is just
in
some
there.
dimes."
I don't want to get
There
hung
were
up
some
on it.
quarters
It's just
in
a
there.
thought.
There were some quarters in there.
Some quarters. I mean,
Yeah.
presumably
Anyway,
it was
we
Korean
cut to
currency, not U.S., but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's
So,
American dollars.
Yes.
So we cut to a montage of them going through sewers, trying to find stuff, and a touching moment where the father runs behind the disinfection truck because he doesn't want to infect his daughter when he finds her. So he's like, the smoke coming out that's meant to be disinfecting, he's like running into it because he doesn't. It's really adorable. And we get to a point where they're in a sewer and they hear something, and so they get their guns and they're looking around, they're looking left, they're looking right, and then, oh no, the aunt's feel something drip on her shoulder. They haven't looked up, so they immediately just shoot up first. And they've shot nothing except,
it's a dripping
dripping
ceiling.
water from a ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a drippy ceiling.
It's just a drippy ceiling.
And camera pans down to where we see, like, two brand new characters that we've never seen before, sort of, like, hiding and trying to go past. And now we follow these two. And they're very clearly, like, brothers of some kind. Kind of really young.
Yeah,
And
one's
they
a
go
bit
to
older than the other.
Yeah,
Why
they go to
not?
this shack. Yeah, they are.
I say, Barry, why don't you continue?
Yeah, Barry, you do it.
Oh, okay. Well, we follow these two new characters, which it felt a little bit like a weird, like some movies are like vignette focused where you just constantly jump characters, and it was like, it felt very seamless to be like, oh, here are these two characters on the outskirts of the scene we're following, being like, oh, why were they shooting? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I peed a little bit because they shot their guns. And then we just
I'll be
follow
honest.
them
If the family stuff had like, if like none of the hospital stuff had been in the family stuff, and we had just cut to them in the disinfection truck, like I would have been completely like, oh, so these two characters are the characters we're going to follow for the rest of the movie now. Like it is like that vignette style thing. But because of the family stuff there, I was like, okay, we're following these two brothers for a very clear reason.
Yeah, they're clearly important. And we follow them, and they kind of we get a little bit of exposition about them, that they're sort of just the two of them, and they don't have homes, and they're just kind of scavenging around. Because when you see them, you're like, why are they inside of this quarantine zone still? Like, why do they not get evacuated with everyone else? And they find a stall with food, which I was confused if that was the same stall from the family.
It is.
It is? Okay. And they basically are looting it, and then the little kid is like, I'm going to take this money. And he's like, no, that's stealing. And he explains this Korean concept that I didn't fully grasp. And then they move on.
Yeah, so the concept is pretty much that if a child steals, they're not, like, taken to the police or anything. They're just, like, reprimanded and told, like, no, don't do that.
But it's like specifically
but
you
if
stealing food to feed yourself because you're
Yes.
starving. It's not stealing
Like,
for stealing's sake.
food or, like, a little bit of something that is just, like, a toy or something, but, like, money is actual theft.
Right. Which is an interesting distinction.
Mm-hmm.
And then I forget exactly if that's when we then cut back to the family. Forget exactly what happens right there.
You know what happens exactly right there?
What happens exactly right there? Because I know shortly
We
after
don't
that
cut
point,
back to
the
the
family then
family.
goes to the exact same food mart, and then they spend time there. But I don't think that.
Well, yeah, what happens first is we don't actually cut back to the family. What we do is we cut back to the daughter.
Oh,
And
okay.
she's like going around trying to figure out what's going on, trying to see if she can find some food, trying to see if she can find a working phone, and then she hears the monster come. And this is where it's like, okay, so this is immediately after, same time, because here come the two brothers out the mouth. Blech!
Yeah.
They've vomited out, and
'Cause-
she's like trying to check if either of them are alive, and
I was gonna say, by the
older
way,
one isn't.
the brothers did get eaten. We should probably add.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they got eaten
Yeah,
like hardcore.
we saw the lizard Spider-Man a little bit, and it was fucking sweet. And then he ate them. So
And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess they're dead. Why did we follow them? Oh, they've been barfed out by the monster into this pile of bodies. And the older one seems to be... Well, they both seem to be dead, but then the younger one is not dead. And
Yeah.
Yep.
and the girl's just
And
like,
that's
cool.
when we cut back to the family where they're having the dinner, and then suddenly, oh, the daughter's there too. It's like, oh man, this is like the family as it should be. But it turns out it's just the father who's asleep,
Just sleeping.
screaming.
yeah.
And we get the grandfather's little monologue where he's like, is he really that pathetic? And then immediately the other two are like,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
but then the grandfather
And he goes
does
on about-
explain. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes to explain, like, he's actually a really smart boy. He's a good boy. He would constantly do things, and like,
He looked like a
Sing-
smart kid, so he was.
yeah, he didn't look like So he was constantly like working and everything, and he just didn't really get enough protein. So that's why he sleeps all the time, because he's just so tired. And also stop scolding him, because he just lost his fucking kid. So maybe don't say things like, "Why did you grab another kid's hand?" Like,
Yeah.
maybe don't say that to him, because he just lost his fucking kid.
Yeah, Drunkle's a piece of shit, honestly.
And then as he's saying this, the other two have fallen asleep, and the father's awake, and you think he's gonna say, like, wow, you really think like that about me? But no, he's looking out the crack in the door. Because
That's such
what
a
do we
good
see, Barry?
shot.
What was that, dear?
I said that's like my favorite shot in the movie is when they're both looking through that crack in the door. It is so nice.
Mm-hmm. And the monster's just like drinking the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they go
So-
pew
so-
pew.
well, yeah.
And the monster goes, "Do you think that's going to stop me?"
Yeah. And then some
I'm
other stuff
fucking
happens.
monster,
Like,
bitch!
Mhm.
and then what else happens?
It knocks them over, and they tumble, and then they chase after it, shooting it, and they run out of ammo as it's running away and Spider-Maning away underneath the bridge. And then he's just like, "I'm out of ammo," and then the dad goes, "I have one bullet left." So then Grandpa's like, "All right, you guys go save yourselves. I'm gonna take care of the monster with this one bullet that I've left." And then as they're running away, you see the dad counting like, "Huh, wait, did I count right?" And then he shoots and he's out of ammo because the dad doesn't know how to
Well,
count.
there's also that scene where, like, they're going to run away, but the father's like, wait, no, just come with us, grandfather. And then there's that slow-motion shot where it's like, son, you know what I'm gonna do. And he's
Yeah,
like,
they
oh,
make eye contact.
don't
as they're
do
running.
this.
Yeah.
don't do this. Like, I know you're not. You know you're not going to kill the monster. I know you're not going to kill the monster. You just. Oh no!
Yeah.
And then he gets RKO'd out of nowhere.
Well, it's not really out of nowhere, but
It's
Yeah.
sad though.
Well,
Yeah.
one might say the tail came out of nowhere.
well, it's really sad because it doesn't just like eat him and bite him in half or like drag him in the water. It just knocks him the fuck over and like
Yeah,
flares him out with the
like-
tail, and then like his body's just there, and that sucks.
That's the thing. That's the thing that I'm so glad so many other people who were watching with us picked it up on it. Like, the monster didn't eat him. It wasn't killing him because it was hungry. It killed him in a violent, brutal way out of revenge because it got hurt by him.
Yeah, they were shooting it a bunch.
It could have taken him to his cave to eat later. It could have just eaten him then and there, but no. It picked him up by the tail and smashed him against the concrete.
Yeah.
Which we haven't seen it do any other time. Every other time it's attacked people, it's either eaten them straight up or it stood over them and held it in its tail to take down underwater to go somewhere else. It has never attacked as brutally as this.
Yeah, I mean, it's killing people just because it's like, oh, these adults are too big to fit in the mouth, so I guess we gotta make it into smaller pieces first or something.
Yeah.
It's not entirely clear, again, why it's doing these
Yeah.
things, but yeah, you're right that this is the first time it's like, oh no, it just wants this thing to be dead.
Okay. So, Grandpa's dead.
That's
And
it.
then what?
Yeah, but the reality is...
Nothing stops Grandpa.
Dad. Okay.
Thank you,
Fuck
Dad.
off. So Grandpa's dead, and nothing stops Grandpa. Now what?
Yeah, now what?
It's sad.
Yeah, it is.
The authorities are on their way, so he has to he can't really do anything, so he just covers his dad's face and runs off, and it's just gut-wrenching.
But he starts running off, but then he doesn't want to leave his dad's body, so he just goes back and the military catches him and they're like, we've found the infected family. One captured, one dead. It's like, wow, you didn't have to fucking phrase it like that, but whatever, I guess. And then we get a news bulletin. A little bit of a
Not
a flash.
poggers.
Not poggers.
Very not poggers.
The American guy who helped in the beginning of the movie is dead. He was in surgery, and oh no, he did not do well. He was cancelled by the virus. He's gone. So the military and the government now are going to use Agent Yellow to kill this monster, to protect everyone, to stop the spread of the virus.
Agent Yellow.
So was Agent Yellow mentioned before that point? Was it in the beginning of the movie?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, because it becomes a big thing later, and I was like, was this established beyond the one time they were like, we're going to do the thing?
No, yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's... I think it's mentioned at that point, but it isn't, really... It's introduced at that point to be brought up then at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
in my notes, I've just written, I'm just depressed, now it's COVID, it's too real, I'm not enjoying any of this. And I have no idea what this means, but because we're following Drunkle, I've just written the notes, dead daddy, stolen brother, sad boy. get you a free suit.
Okay, hold on. So Drunkle is going off to go do something, and he's like trying to make sure that he's not followed, and he sees himself staring at their wanted poster, and he's like, wow, I'm really sad that my dad's dead, basically. And they talk about, like, he gets pulled off behind the hallway, and they're like, hey, did anyone follow you? I'm supposed to be helping you.
Wait, real quick, Gamb, did you write the note because he was near dry cleaners?
Yes.
No, I wrote it near a dry cleaners, but also because the guy who shows up then goes to the front of the dry cleaners and steals a suit.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought he was just
So I
getting
was like,
the
get
suit.
you a
Did he
free
steal it?
suit.
Yeah, he stole
Yeah,
it.
well, he kept looking up as he was rifling through them. Like, very clearly he didn't want to be caught.
Okay, I might have missed that part.
So it's like, oh man, this guy is helping him find the daughter still, because, like, they're trying to track the phone. Like, he'll help him. And, like,
Yeah.
as soon as they got in the office, I was like, oh no, it's a sting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the guy's just like, here, I'll just go in this other room and get a password that'll help us get in. And he goes in the other room. There's like 20 other
Because
people in there.
To
being like,
specify,
is it ready?
he's helping trace the call so they can find out where the call came from to pinpoint
Yeah.
the daughter's location. And
Which
he's
he
like,
does
oh, this
do.
is super
Which-
easy. Why didn't you call us earlier? And it's like,
Yeah.
guy, listen,
Which
it's been a
which
day.
yeah,
It's
which
been a
he
day.
does do. He does get the password to work, and he does track down the
Yeah,
location.
he finds a password, gets it working, he finds
That
out.
was kind of amazing
it's-
too.
it's
That
under-
like he picks up the post-it note with the password and is like, type this in. Oh, I guess it's the wrong password. Let me go in the back. But the real password was on that post-it.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is just
it was pretty fucking great.
yeah.
I will just mention that wasn't a sting operation. It is brought up earlier that he basically used to be like an activist with a bunch of friends, and he used to do a whole bunch of shit. And his activist friends are the ones turning him in.
Well, yeah, but it is still a sting. Like,
Yeah.
they're luring him into a location in order to trap him.
I guess when I hear the word sting, I think of
It's not a police sting.
Yeah.
It's a
Look,
friend sting.
listen, I live in a police state. I think police sting.
We're not talking about sting from the police.
Okay.
Do, do, do. Da, da.
So anyway, so now we know where she is.
Yeah, so he's like, I found it, and then the doors open and all these people go in. He's like, oh no! So he grabs a paperclip,
I
puts
love
it around.
that shot. That it's
I
just like
love
he's being
this.
surrounded by people, and they're like, "Oh, "Be careful!" He's like, he's an escape artist. Like he'll get out of anything. And you just see him slowly grabbing a single paperclip, and it's like, what is he about to do?
It's,
I love
yeah,
it.
it's like, what is he gonna do with it? Is he gonna kill them with a paperclip? That would be
He's gonna
great.
take them
Yeah.
all out like
And
Old
then-
Boy, but with just a paperclip.
Yeah, exactly. I legitimately for a second was like, are we going fucking Old Boy but with a paperclip? Because like, if this movie goes down that route, I'm down for it. But no, what he does is he then grabs a plug and puts the paperclip around it and slams it into the power board, so it immediately surges and short circuits the entire circuit that it would
don't
melt.
think
So the
about that
lights
part.
go off, everything turns
That's
off.
fine.
What do you mean? It actually works.
Well, yeah, it works, but it's like that isn't how that would work. But it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, don't worry about
It's
it.
fine.
It was a cool shot,
Yes.
and it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was immediate payoff
like-
for just slowly reaching for a paperclip, which was great.
Yeah. Lights go off. He drops to the floor, and everyone's like, "Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Oh shit, where'd he go?" And then lights come back on. Wait, do they come back on, or do we
Yes.
just like
Yeah,
see him?
and
No,
then
they
he's
come back
sort
in.
of just
Okay.
crawling outside the room.
He's just crawling outside the
How did he
room.
get
And,
there?
yeah. And then they're like, "There he is, get him!" And they're all trying to get out, but they can't because the door's locked. He's like, "Oh shit, I gotta go!" And he runs past the friend that he was initially talking to, who's on the phone calling the police, and yet holds up a fist of like revolution to him still as he's running,
Like a fist
being
in
like,
solidarity,
"I'm not
like,
calling the
I
police."
sold you out, and I continue to do so, but I stand with you.
Yeah, it's like I fucking lost my shit at that. That was
Same.
hilarious.
Same. He's so serious about it. It's so sincere.
Yeah, it's like no second thought. It's not like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, like, maybe I should try and hide my face so he doesn't see me calling the police. But he's like, no, he's just like, yeah, man, let's do this. I'm still believing you.
Hello, please. There's a man breaking out of my building. Can you
Yeah.
help me? A little bit.
And then, okay, so we cut to Drunkle outside running because the police are coming. And we see his fingers over the edge of the bridge or whatever.
Everyone
they're
gets
on.
outside. The police are there. They're like, "Where did he go?"
Where
Where
must
you
be around
go?
here somewhere. And then his fingers disappear, and we hear a crunch. And they're like, "Oh shit! Maybe something fell off the bridge." And he's like, you see him. You see the shot of a bird's eye view of like them walking towards it, and him laying on the ground, being like, "Oh my fucking god, that hurt!" And he slowly rolls into the bushes so they can't see him.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, that poor guy. And he's like losing consciousness, and he's like, I'm trying to call my sister to tell her where the daughter is, but she's not picking up, so I'll send a text message. This is where she is. And he falls asleep, and we don't know if he sent the text or not.
We also don't know if he
no.
died or not, because he just kind of
So-
immediately loses consciousness.
Yes. So, Barry, where's the sister?
What? Huh?
Where is the sister?
She's underneath the Hongyu Bridge, is I think
Inside
what it was
Almost.
called.
One Hyun Bridge.
Yes.
Huangshu Bridge?
This entire movie pretty much takes place in that area, so yeah.
Yes, but it's...
Yes, it does take place in Korea.
Right. But, I mean, they knew that she was in the sewers, but this was just like, okay, she's specifically under this named
specific-
bridge. We know
yeah.
exactly...
Because there were like 20 different like sewers, and they couldn't get to them.
Even
all.
though
They couldn't find it.
to nitpick a little bit, when he was talking to his buddy who was going to help him trace the call, he was like, "Oh, we know which tower it pinged, so it gives us like a 200-meter radius." But
Yeah.
the radius was just like, here's a dot exactly where she is.
So,
No, it wasn't
okay.
a radius around a
Then-
tower, but whatever.
I
It
mean,
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
but also there's a. You could also argue like.
It's
You,
fine.
you could. I mean, you could also argue like the fact that it's like that was the only sewer in that 200-meter radius, so like it didn't really. Did it actually have like a dot on the actual location, or was
think
it
it
just a
did.
circle around the
It
area?
was kind of a circle, but then like he compared it to the map that had
Yeah,
all
he
the
compared it to the
entrances.
You know
map
what?
to see,
You're
like,
right.
and he was like,
I'm a
"That's
moron.
sewer."
Disregard everything I
You're
say.
fine. You're fine. No, but what I was saying, Barry, is where was the ant? Sorry.
Oh, the ant.
Yeah, not the daughter.
Where was she?
She was under the bridge.
She was under a bridge.
Oh.
She was in a bridge.
Oh.
She was
in
in
the
that.
bridge.
It's
that,
like, the reason why
segment
she
of
wasn't
Half-Life
answering the
2.
call is she was a little bit preoccupied trying to snipe the monster from underneath the bridge. And that goes quite well for her, and then the day is saved and the movie ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So next week, Attack the Block.
What?
We're
Stop.
making a
No,
lot of
go-
Monster
go
Hunter
back.
jokes as she was like readying her bow and this monster's charging at her.
Wait.
Yeah, and it's like, oh man, is she gonna finally let go in time? And no, she doesn't. She gets.
Why are we
fucking
skipping
knocked.
around?
Oh, okay. Here, let me go back a little bit. She gets the text message and goes, "Okay, I'm on my way." And then she gets there, and then she pulls out her bow. She's like, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna kill him." And then she gets knocked out and sent
Not
like
just
down
knocked out,
a
like
tiny,
knocked down a ravine.
fucking smashed. Like she's got brain
Yeah,
damage.
really
like,
messed up.
She's got to be like hemorrhaging.
There's a
blood.
lot of parts of this movie which is like they are either dead or like very seriously injured, out of the movie, incapacitated, and
Yeah.
usually that's just like, nope, I'm
Yeah.
fine now.
Yeah,
I
but to be
wouldn't
fair,
say
they do
fine.
give it time.
Not fine, but
okay,
like
so-
okay.
So during all of this, right, with Drunk Uncle and so on, what's
Drunk
happening with the main character?
Do we have to talk about it?
Do we have to talk about it?
Yeah, we have to talk about it.
Can I at least just read my notes for
Yeah.
it?
Sure. You know what? Sure. Go for it.
Okay, nice hard cut to... Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, yeah, we've skipped a lot of stuff about him, that's why. Okay, so
Not
basically...
unintentional.
Yeah,
It's
not
some of the
unintentional.
hardest
Basically,
sequences to watch, unironically, even though it's like
medical
monster.
stuff's happening. He's a guinea pig. Blood's being drawn. All the whole shebang. And these are what my notes say. Nice hard cut to needle tissue sample. Oh shit! An American has walked in, and he's like, "Is your daughter still alive?" And the father's like, "What? Yes." He's like, "Why didn't you contact the police? Why didn't you talk to this person? Why didn't you contact human rights corporations?" He's like, "'Cause no one fucking listened to me." He's like, "Okay, good. We know he's delusional. The virus must be in his brain." It's like, wow, you're an asshole.
Even
Yep.
slightly before that, though, there's a whole bunch of stuff with him and a bunch of various doctors and nurses and medical staff, and they're well, I forget. They were just like, hey, like, we need to give you the shot. And he's like, okay, but I need to go save my daughter. And they're like, well, we got to give you the shot first. He's like, okay. What's the shot? And they're like, it's anesthetic. And he's like, okay, I'll take the shot first. And then he's like, I gotta go. And he jumps up, and then they tackle him down, and then they give him this anesthesia. And then they're like, we gave him the dose, right? Yeah, okay.
So anesthesia doesn't work on him because his brain was messed up because he worked at organic farms that he didn't get enough protein at, which is what the grandfather was talking about. They shouldn't pick on him because he actually has something wrong with his brain, and he sleeps all the time and is narcoleptic because of that. So anesthesia doesn't technically work on him.
Right. And then he decides, and that's when we get that awful smash cut to the tissue sample, which is like, well, he's not going under, so I guess we'll just do it anyway. And it's like, ugh. And then that's a bad time.
Yeah, and that's not even the worst fucking part.
That's far
because, and these are my notes. The doctor is a lying liar. He says that there's no virus, and the father, like, perks up. Like, he doesn't really understand the English that much, but then he's like, wait, I heard the words no virus. Did you just say there's no fucking virus? Have you been lying this entire time? There's no fucking virus? He's like, well, the only place it could be is in the front part of the brain, so we're gonna check. And it's like, well, if anesthetics don't work on him, we're gonna just do it without it. And that's when my notes quote, and I say, I ain't looking. No. My monitor is off. They're just drilling a door, renovating a house. Because you hear the drill
Gamb
go
did
into the front of the
legitimately
skull.
ask if he could turn his monitor off, and I said yes.
It actually wasn't bad.
It's just still
unrealistic.
like...
Okay,
It's just like
here's the thing.
the amount of suspense and build-up there is just unbearable. It's done
unrealistic things like a monster ripping someone to shreds, or like ripping them in half, or like a sword going through someone and they split in half like an Underworld. That I'm fine with because it's unrealistic.
Yes. Or it's just
a
so
medical
extreme
procedure.
And it's not relatable.
Yes, but a medical procedure where they have strapped him down to a protractor that has a drill that's going to go into the front part of his
and
brain.
He's fully lucid and aware.
Very slowly. And he is fully conscious.
Literally crying and saying that crying and apologizing to his daughter that he didn't do enough, and
it's a bad time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to the daughter, and the daughter's still alive, and the little boy is still alive, and we learn that the boy is homeless, he's got no family, and he's like, it's a really cute little scene, but I was worried about it, because it's like, are we going to get this weird juxtaposition where they're going to constantly cut back to this horrible procedure while we're at this moment where the daughter and this little boy are having this moment of like, what's some food you can think of? Like, what's the last bit of food you ate? And she's like, I drank cold beer. And he's like, well, what do you guys have at the store? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this?
It's a really fun montage.
And then we see them... It is, but the entire time I was like, I know the juxtaposition's coming. I know it's coming. Like, we cut back to the father screaming in pain.
Didn't happen.
But no, we the little girl and the boy tying, like, clothes together, and I legitimately thought for a second they're, like, just doing tug of war to, like, pass the time. I was like, okay, whatever. But then she throws it up, and I was like, I guess she was done with that. And it's like, oh, no, wait, they're using it as a rope to get out. That's right, they're trapped in a sewer.
I know it's a question that literally doesn't matter, but what happened to the bodies?
So they were eaten for the most part. When we cut back to them, there's still, like, one or two in there. But for the most part, it seems like he's coming in and eating them, which is why... minutes later in this scene, the monster comes back and just vomits up like bones
Just
everywhere.
every bone in South Korea.
Yes. Like literally every person he's eaten, like 80, 90 people, are just thrown up in bones.
Into the pit. Yeah.
Into the pit, the bones will go.
It was good for October. It was very spooky.
Yeah. Very spooky.
But yeah, they're making basically a rope ladder to then try to catch it onto a grate up above them and get out. And they are successful in tying that rope up, and they tie a police baton onto the edge so it catches, and they get it. And it's too high off the ground.
And it's too short.
Yeah.
But the real problem is that, and my notes say here, when he's vomiting up the skeletons, it just says, doot doot, skeletons are plenty. And then we get a hard cut again, back to the medical procedure going on with the father, but it's not as bad. blood is just being drawn from his shoulder.
Yeah, but it's
So
still
it's
like
like,
an extreme
okay.
close-up, and they're like...
Yes.
It's
So
well
it's
done.
like, okay, there was the juxtaposition. I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Cool, whatever. And
It
he's
wasn't.
like sitting there.
It was a
dazed,
very
like, in
non-American juxtaposition.
Yes.
I'll put it that way.
pain. Yes.
It was sensible
he's
and
just sitting
progressed
there
the plot.
dazed out of his
It
mind.
wasn't just
Yeah.
gore for the sake of gore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's just sitting there dazed out of his mind, just like sitting there as they're like pulling the bandages off him, and she didn't even get the little cotton ball over the part where they drew blood. Like,
Yeah, because
Terrible
I think
bedside
all of
manners.
us had the assumption of like, oh, he's been lobotomized and now he's just not even present anymore. Because he's
yeah,
just
that's what we were thinking.
completely blank expression.
So
And that's actually what the nurse who drew his blood thinks as well, because she like pokes him like, hey, you okay, buddy?
Yeah.
And then he immediately turns, grabs the needle out of her hands, and pulls her close and is like, I'm gonna fuck it. You want viruses? I'll inject this bitch with viruses. Let me the fuck out
like
of here.
I love that he threatens to spray the blood in the needle at the doctors. Like, get out of the way.
Yeah, he's like the whole time he's not even speaking like completely coherently. He's just like, you love viruses? I'll give you virus. I'll inject this all in her. She'll get the virus. Because he's just like completely disillusioned to all of this now.
Yes.
Because he's just like none of this matters.
When he
Absolutely
first
none
does
of it
that and
matters.
he has all of the doctors like get down and like drop what they're holding and one guy open the door. Did you see the guy with the
the
tray
one
of
guy
stuff?
with the tray. Yeah. He's like walking back and forth,
He's
just
like,
like, I don't know
where
what
do I
to
put
do.
it?
I've got this tray. I can't get down on the
Where do I
floor.
put it down?
I can't put it
I don't
down
want-
because every time I get close to him, he's like, put it
I don't want
down.
to spill anything.
Yeah.
It was really good.
It's great. He's like the one guy that doesn't get on the floor because he can't, because he's holding something and he can't just drop
But I
it.
love it because if it was just like an actor holding props, he'd be like, oh, I don't give a fuck, just drop that shit. But it's like, no, these are my medical supplies.
Yeah, it was
These are my
great.
vials
I'm
of
glad
things.
you noticed that.
I actually
So-
really like the barbecue guy the most.
American barbecue guy.
Yeah, so he opens the door and we open out to American soldiers.
They were in like
who
a
are,
trailer in a
cooking
field.
on a barbecue.
It wasn't really
Yeah.
established.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was just like he's not in a hospital in a building. It's just like
I think it's meant to be a reveal, but it, like, to me it was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, I understand, like, if if it's meant to be like top secret, like, study on the virus, like, yeah, he's not going to be in a hospital. He's going to be in a demountable.
Yeah.
it wasn't played as like some big dramatic shift. It was just like, oh no, he's outside of
Yeah,
those
it's
doors.
just like, oh, he's not in a hospital.
Yeah.
He's just in a demountable. Cool. Yeah. So he's like, get me a car. I'm gonna. You guys are just out here barbecuing. Fuck your barbecue, and kicks over the barbecue.
And there's an American who's like, hey, okay, wow.
Yeah.
Bro, keep him alive. So he gets away. Thankfully, we find out the Drunkle is still alive. And he's like, oh man, I gotta get to this
Yeah,
bridge.
he wakes up.
And this homeless guy that he's
He wakes
with,
up just like on a little ramshackle bed, and there's just the guy who's just like, hey.
Yeah, he's just a guy.
And there's no like, oh, you're finally awake. Well, but he's just like, I gotta go.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take all your
finally
stuff.
awake,
I need
eh?
these bottles. He's just like, what are you doing?
Well, not even that. He doesn't even say anything. He's like, I need all your bottles. And then the homeless guy just grabs an empty bottle, smashes it over his head,
Yeah.
and is like, I'm bored
Well,
anyway. I got
'cause
nothing else
Drunkle's
to do.
like-
You said this bridge? Cool.
Drunkle's like, I'll pay you. And he's like, you think you can buy everything? And just smashes him over there with a bottle. And he's like, I guess I'll help you. And he just walks off.
Yep.
It's just,
It's
that's
great.
all the exposition
And now
you
they're
need.
together.
It's good.
So
Yeah.
it sounds like everybody's meeting up, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, sounds like we're getting to the final act.
Oh.
Where everyone's meeting up in the same place. The aunt is still alive and not dead somehow.
Yes.
She's climbing out of a hole, and she gets there, and then you see the father's like in his medical robes, and he's there, going for the monster, and we see Drunkle is in a taxi cab making Molotov cocktails, and the taxi driver's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Get out of my taxi!"
Hold on. Back up just a little bit. So the father gets there first and goes down into the hole to try and find the daughter. When he climbs down the rope that they made, he sees that it's part of her jacket, but he realizes she's not in there. And he sees the monster crawling overhead with her arm dangling out of its mouth.
Yeah. Also, we
Yes.
skipped over the parkour scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, we skipped over the parkour where she walks out and the monster's asleep or dead. Who knows?
It's clearly sleeping.
It could be dead. I don't know. We haven't gone ahead any further, Barry.
Can we like hear it breathing and stuff?
And she's like, "Little boy, you stay here. If
you stay, no,
I'm gonna bring
following.
everyone. I'm gonna bring like you've got a fever, you're bleeding, you're very clearly gonna die. So I'm gonna go. I'll bring everyone. I'll bring 911. I'll bring police. I'll bring doctors. I'll bring everyone." And she's like, "Whatever happens, don't leave this hole." And so she starts running and she parkours up the monster. She grabs the rope and then she stops. She lets go of the rope and she's still hanging up there because the monster has grabbed her with its tail. And she's like, "Oh no." It lets her back down on the
Gently.
ground, rests its tail
Very
again.
gently.
Yeah, and she's
I
like,
was waiting for a
was
little
that
pat,
a
pat
reflex?
on her head with the tail.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, but considering what happens next, the pat would have made no sense. Because she's like, "Oh, I think that was just a reflex. I've got to be very careful
Yes.
as I slowly turn. Here's a spider for some reason. It makes no sense that they cut to a
Not
spider.
enough phobias in this
'Cause
movie.
It's not like,
More phobias.
yeah.
Also, the little
'Cause
boy
you
did
could
not
argue
listen to her
it's-
and is standing in the open behind
No.
her, and he is wetting himself in
Yes.
fear. And
Yes.
she's just like, "Go back
So-
in the hole."
Get in the hole, and then she turns around and runs, and the monster's like, "I'm awake, bitch!" and does Spider-Man flips and
It does a
goes towards
Does a
her, and
kick
he's
flip.
about to eat both her and the boy, and then we cut.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when we cut.
Yes.
And that's
And-
when we find
and
out,
now we're
okay, the
caught
monster
back
did
up.
eat.
Yeah.
And now we're caught back up, yeah.
Yeah, now we're caught back up.
And I
So-
love the shot of Drunkle and the homeless guy from under the overpass in the back seat of a car making Molotov cocktails. And you just I just kind of assumed like, oh, he's probably like got some connections or he knows a guy or something. And the guy's just like, "Can you please not do this in the back of my cab?" Which
Yeah.
Well, not even that. He's like, "I'm stopping. That's it. You're getting out. I'm stopping the car. Get out." And he's like, "Just shut up. Keep driving. I'll pay you quadruple."
Yeah.
just there's little bits like that throughout the entire movie where I'm like, that is everything you need to know. So succinct
Yep.
and so well paced. It just like you don't see them like holding a cab driver hostage and getting the back seat and getting alcohol. It's just like,
Yeah,
no,
there's
like,
not this whole,
you just
like-
have this ridiculous moment of them in the back of a cab making Molotovs, and it's great.
Yeah, that we don't get like the tension like action scene of we've got to get to the bridge. Like, how do we get there from here? Well, we gotta drive through this whole area, and we gotta get a car first, and we'll take this guy hostage. We'll get through the crowd. It's like, no, we don't need that because that's not what this movie is
Right.
about.
Yeah.
The movie is about the family and about what's happened to this
We need to
family.
get them
It's like,
back
we don't care
together
about
and
that.
have the tools that they need. Go.
Okay.
It's-
Yes.
yeah.
So we now have all of them back together. They're chasing the thing because it's running out of
Except Grandpa.
Except Grandpa. They're chasing the thing, and it went back into the river, so they're chasing it across the bridge. And what happens?
Stuff.
Uh-huh.
It goes across the river, and that's where we see the protesters that we heard about from the taxi, where everyone was
I thought
going.
it was a
There were
parade at
protesters.
I saw
You
the
think it's a-
wacky wavy inflatable tube arm men, and I was like,
Inflatably armed tube
is
men,
there
yeah.
is there like
I mean, yeah.
a car sale going on or something?
Cars for
Yeah.
sale? No. So they're protesting the use of Agent Yellow, and also they all have shirts saying "Free the Father," because human rights abuses against him. And they're like, "Oh shit!" One of them turns around and has her camera out, and she's like, "Oh no, it's here!" And they're like, "Oh god, fucking run!" And the monster's coming, and everyone fucking leaves,
Except-
and the military.
Yeah, except a single cop
Well,
who's just
Except a single cop who's gonna save the day. He runs up, pulls out his pistol, shoots, and it does fucking nothing.
and meanwhile the father is just like, "Stop shooting!" Just screaming.
Yeah.
Stop shooting! You'll hit my fucking
My
daughter.
daughter is right there.
Yeah, this is like stop, and we see this like dispersal thing above that's occasionally shooting out little bits of yellow gas. It's like, okay, that's the Agent Yellow they've been
I was
talking
very
about.
confused
Okay, we
about
got
that
it.
at first.
Yeah.
It to me,
Well, yeah, Chris Martin
it might
was
have been
there.
intentional. It resembled the creature when it was hanging from the bridge at the very beginning. It was this like kind of
Hey.
bulbous pod thing.
Hey, Barry.
Hey,
How are you calling all this shit?
I mean, is that actually intentional?
Yes.
Okay.
I was gonna say it kind of looked like that. What's that robot from Flubber called?
Flubbot.
I don't even remember.
Weibo, that's right, Weibo. Here, let me just get your fucking image for you. There you go. Weibo
Oh my
from
god, I
Flubber.
forgot about that. How did you
Yeah,
have
you
that
forgot about
at the
that, huh?
ready?
Because I googled it to make sure I could get its
That was
name
a
right.
fast Google.
Fair.
So yeah, it kind of looked like that to me. It's like, oh no, we got the final showdown. We got the father in front of it, and the monster's being doused in this yellow gas, and oh god, it was all yellow. Everything around, everyone's covered in gas. Chris Martin was there. He's singing about it, and then the father's like, get your hands off her.
Well,
you
he sort of just
bitch.
he tackles the police officer, make him drop his gun, and then does the police officer just disappear? They're just kind of like lost in the gas, I guess, and everyone starts coughing and having a bad time.
Okay.
Sure.
So real
guess that's
quick,
fine.
let me just interject.
Yeah.
The design of the pod to deploy Agent Yellow was specifically designed to resemble the look of the creature when it was first seen
Nice.
hanging upside down under the One Hill Bridge.
Nice. I swear I did not read that. Also, the other thing that I called, which was
Yeah.
the deliberate lack of hiding the monster, was apparently intentional.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously it's intentional. You don't do that by mistake, but
Yeah.
specifically
Okay,
for the reason
so-
of, like, it helps you focus on the family when the monster's not a mystery. It's just, here's what it is. Here's
Yeah,
how it
when
works.
you're not constantly thinking like about the monster, like what does it look
Yeah.
like? What does it do? What's its motivation?
Okay,
It's like
so-
we get that out of the way in the
We-
first
we
5
know what the
minutes. So we don't
characters
need to
know.
think about it.
So, Gam, unless you have some really, really good notes, I think we should let Barry finish off on the final countdown.
I don't think I do have good notes other than no.
All right, Barry. What
Other than
happens?
well, no. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to do a great job summarizing.
That's fine.
But basically, you have the gas falls down onto the monster, and then the monster kind of collapses over, and you're like, oh, I guess the gas took care of it. So the dad rushes in and reaches into its big, gross mouth and pulls out the daughter. And my first thought was,
And the
what
boy.
happened to the little boy who was also eaten? But I guess that's fine.
He gets dragged out with her. You see,
Yeah.
you see him come out with her, but he basically pulls because she's holding on to him.
I
So, like,
totally missed
he,
that.
He
I didn't
pulls
see
her
that at
out.
all.
It's hilarious because he pulls her out. She's holding him. The boy kind of like slides out of her grip, and he just like completely ignores that the boy is
Yeah.
there. He just grabs his daughter and is like, "Oh my god, please be
Yeah,
alive!"
and she's unconscious,
Um,
and it's not clear kind of if she's okay or not.
Yeah.
I think that's when the rest of the family rushes in, and
Yeah.
they sort of like move them all away, and the monster goes, "Surprise! I'm not actually dead from the gas." So
Yeah.
the protests were right, and this was bullshit.
that's when Drunkle
And that's
comes
when
in, though.
Drunkle shows up as like, "Hey, remember the guy who made all those Molotovs in the back of that Uber? Beep beep, I'm here." And starts absolutely whiffing every single Molotov throw. In expert
Yep.
display, we get this monster running, and there's one shot in particular where it's running, and it wraps its tail around a pillar as it's running for no reason. And I was just like, the amount of time it must have taken to animate that when that doesn't, it's not even like part of its movement. It's like running along, and the tail just kind of like wraps around a thing for no reason. It just stuck out to me.
It's fine.
And then does the monster stop? What happens there?
It does stop because he throws one and it lands in front of
Oh,
it.
that was it, right.
And it like goes, "Oh no, fire!" And that's when it's like, that's when we pan up and we see homeless dude is walking over with a giant jug,
Right.
and he's like, "Glug glug, motherfucker!
And
Drink this delicious soju."
throw
Not
back-
sponsored.
Throwback to that fucking scene when they were in
Where
the
it's drinking
food
water.
truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's drinking the rain.
Thirsty for soju.
Drink
Exactly.
this soju, not
Exactly.
sponsored.
So he douses the monster.
And he's like drinking it, pouring it all over
And
him.
the monster's like, "This is not
Yeah.
delicious." And then
Yeah.
I think he's like, no, isn't he like, this is delicious because he keeps drinking it?
I
Yeah.
couldn't tell if he,
He
was
does.
just like, "Bruh, it's in my mouth," or if he was like, "Yum yum yum."
I
I'm
don't
pretty
know.
sure he was like the exact same pose when he was drinking the water. Like he was
You know,
enjoying
that makes a lot of
shit.
sense.
Yeah,
How do I pick up on some things and some things go completely over my head?
I don't know.
Poo
It's
brain.
the poo brain.
So we're set up for the Drunkle to kill him.
Yeah, so
right?
it's like, okay, he's doused in gasoline. Now's the time for Drunkle to shine.
He's got one Molotov
He's got
left.
his Molotov, and he throws it, and it makes it like half of the distance. It's like a
not
No,
even.
not even that. No, what he does is he does that thing where he like leans back to go throw it, and it slips out of his hand and falls down backwards. It's like that
Yeah,
movement where you go, whoa, but it's not in your hand because it fell out while you were winding backwards. He's like, oh no, what am I gonna do?
Also, my
What is
foot
he
is
gonna
on
do?
There's nothing I
fire.
can do. Also,
What is-
oh god, there's fire everywhere. And that's when the aunt comes up and like, I've got this. I've got my Chekhov's bow and
literally,
arrow
as,
right here.
As he was like rearing back to throw this final Molotov, I was typing into the Discord chat like, no, what are you doing? Give it to the archer. This was all set up for the archer. And then he whiffs it, and then the archer's like, hey, who wants a roasted marshmallow? And goes, phew, and she doesn't hesitate. And she does it, and the monster's like, ah.
Yeah, she doesn't hesitate.
Fire hurts.
She
Yeah.
gets the golden monster killing.
So then the monster.
So
she
what
gets a
What?
Go ahead. I was
she
gonna
gets
say,
a
what you're-
Timothy gem.
So what you're saying is that everybody's had a moment, right?
Everyone's had a moment.
Well,
Except the dad.
Oh, what happens with the dad?
Nothing.
the dad hasn't have his.
No,
No.
absolutely nothing.
Yes, it
So the
does.
monster's
No,
like, I'm on
specifically-
fire. Oh, the river. That would help with the fire. So it starts running to the water, and you're like, oh no, it's gonna get doused and then be mostly fine. And then it's almost to the edge of the water, and then Dad's like, hey, remember me. And then he has another
Hey,
sign,
remember my arc?
which they actually did establish him like grabbing another sign. And he just jabs her right in the face.
Yeah.
And apparently he
Yeah.
he slides back like a couple inches, but he just stands his ground and just impales this thing. And then he's like, ow, my hand has a circle on it now because there was a lot of
Yeah.
pressure.
So everyone's good.
Everyone's
We're
good.
all good.
That's it.
yeah, everyone's good. Everyone's alive.
alive.
Except the daughter. She's
dead.
dead.
Oh.
Yeah, they confirm that she's dead, and they're all sad.
Oh.
And it's like, oh, okay. But the boy's
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
about
but
the-
the boy's
Mhm.
alive.
Oh, the boy's okay.
So, he just traded a daughter for a
Yep.
son.
Oh,
That's
I see.
Yeah, and then we cut to years later.
Mhm. And it's Christmas
Well,
Day.
probably like it's Christmas Day, and the father's like sitting. It's a callback to the beginning of the movie, except he's not asleep now. He's awake. He's sitting out there, and he's like, "Wait a minute, is there something in the distance? Is that Father Christmas I see?" He grabs his gun, gets ready to point
He hears
out.
sleigh bells.
Like very clearly, it seems to be like that may not have been the only monster that's in that river. And he's like, "Oh, well, I guess it was nothing." So he turns around, and his son is asleep. And he's like, dinner's ready, I'm responsible now. Here, I've made dinner and everything. And then they're sitting there eating, and the kid's like, can we, like, not watch the
Because
news?
the,
Can we just,
the
like,
TV's
enjoy the
on, and
food?"
there's a news report that's like, oh, so the United States' investigation into the South Korean virus incident of a few years ago, it's like 100% relevant in terms of like providing denouement for the fallout of the story. And they're just like, and the son's like, no, I want to focus on the meal. Let's turn off the TV. And he's like, where's the remote? And he spends a while trying to find the remote, turns off the TV with his foot, and then they just sit there eating.
Yeah.
That's the point where Bong Joon-ho went, okay, so I need to put it in people's faces quite blatantly. The virus storyline doesn't matter to this movie, and that's not what the movie was about. The movie was about the family and what they do together. How do I do that? I know, I'll have the kids say, can we not watch the news? Can we just, like, enjoy the meal together?
Enjoy our company with each other.
Enjoy our company. It's like, nailed it, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that moment.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the credits where it's like, ooh, wah, ah, ah.
Yeah.
We get the jump
obviously.
scare of the monster crushing in.
Yeah. Okay. So that seemed like a pretty good movie. So a few interesting things. The opening scene was inspired by a true event. In 2000, a mortician in Seoul, under the employment of the U.S. Air Force, ordered his workers to dump embalming fluid down the drain.
Yum.
Yeah, all 120 liters were washed into the Han River, raising its toxicity level. And when Bong saw this, he thought the mortician being obsessed with dust on the bottles would be precise, were based on the actual case. So the whole dust on the bottles was from the actual case from 2000.
That's neat and sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of how toxic Thames River is and how they treated that back in Victorian times.
So that also helps kind of
with-
explain why the beginning of the movie is just, oh, we're pouring chemicals down the drain. A few years later, monster. It's not like this
Yeah, I mean, it
happened,
kind
and
of
then
works
this,
as like
and we
a-
thought through every detail of this. It's just like monster happened
Yeah.
because this.
That's what I mean. It kind of works as just this is a setup, it doesn't matter. This just gets us the monster. Let's get through it.
So Rains mentions the traditional holding of the monster, Barry, which we talked about, and typical monster movies, and the fact that Bong completely breaks the tradition.
Yes.
Bong Joon-ho
Very
mentions
well.
that he hates this tradition and jumped at the chance to show his creature fully and early. And this also got this aspect way out of the way, so the audience can focus on the impact. So not focus on the impact the creature has, but on the family.
And it worked.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. A lot of other movies where they're like, oh man, I really love my monster, I just want to show it off. They make the mistake of, like, I've shown my monster early and, like, all the time, but the movie's still about the monster, right? Like, you still care and, like, curious about the monster. It's like, no, you get the monster out of the way to get what the movie's actually about, which is what he did smartly.
Yeah, and it was a cool monster. It wasn't just like a throwaway design. Like, they thought a lot. There's a lot of really weird details about it.
It's got a vagina mouth.
It's got feet on its toes. It's a
I was
weird
gonna
time.
say, like, when you see towards the end where its mouth is like wide open right near the front of the camera, you can see that there's like little hairs in its mouth as well.
Link to the picture, Barry.
Yeah.
Where's the
of the
picture?
statue.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Wow. So, fine, whatever. There is a statue of the monster dedicated to this film that was placed along the Han River in 2015.
And if you look it up, there's a lovely photo of a couple sitting on the edge of its open mouth. And it's a really cute photo, but then it's just this giant, hideous monster about to eat them. And they're just, nice little sit. It's good.
So most of the underground settings in the host are actually real locations.
Really?
Found underneath the Wonhyo Bridge. The only set built for the underground location was the creature shelter.
Huh. I assumed a lot more
I
of those
thought
were made for the movie just because of the way they were shot and framed. It seemed like they were...
Nope.
Just like the fact they're like, oh, here's the entrance to this tunnel underneath the bridge. And we were talking about how it's like you guys thought that it was very close to the edge of that area, and my assumption was it was further into those depths. But it's like, but if it was on site, they would have just shown more of that. But it was just a decision to be like, here's the locations that matter, where they're connected.
They also had multiple situations where they were just going through the sewers, and all of those were just filmed because their sewers are fucking huge.
Must have been a pain in the ass to shoot.
God, I'd hate to be the intern that gets lost in there.
Yeah.
Like, wait, where are we shooting again? Oh no, I'm lost.
When the movie becomes a documentary.
Help!
So from
The search for the lost
Blair
best,
Witch.
best boy.
The lost.
Jesus. So there's a bit of a debate in the end movie's commentary track where it's kind of regarding the innocence of the creature, where one of the directors kind of mentions it's natural that the creature had to die at the end because it ate a lot of people and those people were innocent.
Well, that harkens
Where
back to what the granddad was saying. He was like, if an animal kills a human, you have to tear it apart limb by limb. And that's what humans do.
You have to maintain...
and
we
then-
have to maintain that we're the top of the chain.
Then Bong Joon-ho, sorry, I'm butchering this,
okay.
remarks that the creature just wants to survive. It's just doing normal animal things. It didn't purposely kill anyone except the people that hurt
Except
it, like
the
the
grandpa.
grandfather, yeah. But they both basically kind of go back and forth a little bit, but then Rain replies that, like, well, sometimes you just can't let certain things survive. So that's the thing.
Wow, that's bleak. I mean, I guess to me it's like a movie thing. Like, in real life, yes, you wouldn't like butcher the creature because it is just trying to live. Like, you'd more want to contain it and try and find a way to live around it. But in a movie setting, it's not satisfying unless the monster dies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can't have that shot at the end of the dad and his new adopted son and then just know the monster is still out there. That just it does the same thing of distracting from the family story and making you think more about the monster.
Yeah. Because, like, a lot of the characters' motivation was revenge against the monster and, like, anger against the monster. So it's like, if the monster's still alive at the end of the movie, then your character's arcs aren't resolved.
Which is fine
Like,
if that's the path you want to take. But
if that's what you're going for, but it's not what the movie was going for. So it's like...
yeah, it would have been strange, I think, in the context of the rest of the movie, if they were just like, we made peace with the monster, and we made a little habitat for it.
So the last thing, in regards to the last movie we watched, Gamb, you probably know what I'm going to talk about, but Barry, do you know who made most of the props for Lord of the Rings?
Why, Weta Workshop.
Do you know who made the props for Black Sheep, the movie we watched
Weta
last?
Workshop.
Do you know the design of the creature and who made that design?
For Black Sheep?
No, for this movie, the host.
I'm going to guess Weta Digital.
Weta Workshop.
Weta Workshop. Okay.
Yep.
Well, they would have had to have done a physical design of it.
Yeah.
They
You know what?
probably would have
That's
done it
valid.
and
That's fair.
digitized it.
I was just I was just going for the rule of
So
threes.
yeah, we've had 2 movies in a
You-
row
you-
that were both designed, monsters
Was
designed
that
by
intentional?
Weta Workshop. No, it wasn't.
So the next horror movie we're watching are all 3 Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
That's the exact joke I was gonna make.
Get it? Because they're horrible.
Oh.
Ha ha. Okay, so
But the scenes with Smaug are good.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
So-
I mean, have you seen the behind-the-scenes
Actually,
footage
I haven't.
of him as Smaug? It is
With Benedict
fantastic.
Cumberbatch,
He is having
or-
so much
It
fun.
felt like he was having
Yeah,
a good
Benedict
time.
Cumberbatch. He legitimately is like crawling on the floor and everything,
Yeah.
like over exasperating his like emotion and like facial expressions. It's great.
I assume that they did maybe
Yes.
facial capture. That's cool. They did a whole.
They
Yeah.
did, yeah,
A whole
full
body
body capture for him, I believe, as well.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find. Yeah, here we go. Here, just take a look at
This
that.
is just for
Yeah.
me, not for podcast listeners.
Yeah, we'll deal with that in a little bit. What did you guys think of the movie, though?
I thought it was really good. I mean, I always knew it was good, but like, again, this was one of the movies that's on my list of like movies I've always wanted to watch, but never got around to it because I don't have time in my life to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Gamb. This had been on my to watch list basically since it came out. I remember it making a bit of a splash when it first came out. Yeah, it wasn't really a pun. And I remember, I mentioned I saw Snowpiercer. That was the only other Bong Joon-ho movie I'd seen. But I just knew that The Host was supposed to be really good. Then Parasite came out, everyone just exploded. And I really want to
I'm
watch
so glad
Parasite
everyone
sometime.
has.
I need to watch Parasite as well.
I
just
still
haven't had
haven't.
time.
I've only seen bits of Parasite. I still haven't watched it. Can we just? Okay, in 2 months, can we just watch fucking Parasite?
Sure.
Because we all want to watch it. We all know it's good, and it's a great horror movie.
Yeah.
Like we're alternating between a good horror movie and a bad horror movie. So like,
Is Parasite a
like-
horror movie?
I would say it's
thought it was a drama.
okay, it's a bit more of a thriller.
I thought it was a drama
it's more
too.
of like a thriller drama. We can stretch the fucking rules.
no,
I don't care.
heck you. Oh, whatever. So
But, yeah,
okay.
regardless,
I'm not.
I'd been excited for this movie for a long time. I've been meaning to watch it. I like me a good horror movie, like Deer and I were raving about Attack the Block
Yep.
in vague terms. It's
Yeah.
not really horror, but whatever. Just like monster movies and just like neat monsters.
It's horror light.
Yeah, it's just here's a big old monster
would say-
making a ruckus, and
Attack the Block is an entry horror movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie for kids to watch to get a little bit scared at.
Yeah.
But like wonder,
Not really
hey,
a
are there any
kid's
more movies like
movie.
this that I can get scared?
Well,
you haven't
I-
even
I
seen it,
generally-
Cam. Shut up.
I generally put.
I've seen bit.
I
I know
generally.
what's in it. I've know a lot about the
Right.
movie.
So I generally put monster movies as like horror light. That's not what I really consider horror movies. Like I don't consider Cloverfield a horror movie, but it's got moments of horror in it.
Yes,
Right.
I'd agree with that.
I would also say that like this movie is not a horror movie. It's horror light because the situations are horrifying.
And there's scenes
I don't think it's
that
a horror
feel
movie.
like horror movies, but the general
Yes.
tone,
Yeah,
the
the scenes
nature
that
of
are
the
gonna
plot,
haunt me.
the way you feel at the end of
Yeah.
it, A lot of true hardcore horror, you leave and you're like, I'm exhausted and I feel like shit. Not like, okay, like, that kind of sucked, but like, he got a son in the end, and he learned to be a dad.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
So you don't have to rate it, Barry, because I know you're. I kind of explained what our rating system was, but you don't have to abide by
I mean,
it.
I
but,
don't
like,
rate them. I just say whether I'd watch them again or not.
No,
and,
you gave a rating to Black Sheep. You gave it
Did
like
I?
a 7. But because you didn't like it as much because Grandma didn't go Rambo.
No Grambo.
Yeah, well, duh.
Yeah.
That movie would have been so much better if they leaned into it more, but they decided not to.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, Gamb.
I mean, okay, if we're going off the number system where it's like 5 is I'm okay with it, but I'd only really watch it again if I want to like show someone.
Yeah.
6
1 to
is
3.
like kind of the same, but maybe I'd watch it again.
1 to 3 was I
7
never want to watch it. 4 to 7 was like, it's okay, I don't want to watch it anytime soon. 7 and above was like, yeah, like I really want to watch it like tomorrow.
So like I'd say like a 9.
Yeah.
I like it. It's gonna go on my list of movies to like watch occasionally, like with
Nice.
people. Like I wouldn't say it's like on my list of movies that I would just put on in the background, or like movies that like if I need a movie to like watch with someone, it doesn't go on that list. The top movie on that list is still The Babysitter, because that is a great thriller.
It's fine.
But I'd say a 9.
My end goal is to get a movie up there on like 2, maybe at least. I don't
You want a
expect to get
2?
you. I don't
You want me to
expect
be
you.
depressed?
I don't expect you to, like, clear out like your top movies, but I want to get one up there.
Oh! I thought you meant you wanted to
A 2
like
out of 10.
me to rate a movie 2.
Oh,
That's
no.
why I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you want to depress
That
me?
was
No.
how I interpreted that.
I was like, well, if you want to do that, here's a list of things that the movie would need for me to like give it a 2. But I'm not going to tell you that because then you will give me a movie.
No,
like
I'm
that.
not going to do that. I just meant like I want a movie. I want to give you a horror movie that I want you to say like, hell yeah, like I want to watch this again like next week or something, or like next month.
Well, it's a shame you already ruined that because you got Wreck.
Yeah,
You already showed me Wreck years ago.
yeah, I know.
And I'd say Wreck is probably the closest out of any horror movie that I've watched, besides Cube. But Cube I watched on my own.
I mean, I would say we could watch Wreck again, but like you promised me we wouldn't. So
Yeah, I don't want to watch movies we've already watched. It
that's
kind
fair.
Kind of defeats the purpose. And we can't watch Wreck 2 because I've basically watched it.
Yeah. So Barry, you're free to not rate it if you want, but you're free to if you want.
Well, I mean,
you
I'm
don't
not going
rate
to
it.
give it a number score just because I don't know, I don't want to. But also, I
That's
wouldn't
fair.
even be able to use your rating system because I very rarely rewatch movies in general. Like every now and then, I'll be like, you know
Fair.
what, I really want to watch this movie again. But
Yeah.
for me, it's
I-
like how much
so
did I
the
enjoy
ratings-
that experience, not just how much of a rush am
Yeah.
I in to watch it a second time. And I really
I was gonna
enjoyed
say
this.
the rating system actually comes from me watching Doctor Who, which I don't rewatch TV shows except like 1 or 2 ever.
Yeah.
So
For me, it's like, okay, because I don't really rewatch movies either, but like, I sort of treat it like this. If someone comes up to you and is like, quick, give me a good horror movie to watch,
yeah,
how long would it take in your mind before this movie shows up?
yeah,
Like, you go through the list of movies, like, okay, good horror movies. There's this, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this. How long until the host shows up?
It'd probably be kind of far down the list, not because I didn't enjoy it, but just because I probably don't categorize it mentally as horror. You know, monster
Same.
movies are a
Okay,
subset.
someone comes up to you.
So
Okay, that is a thing. Do we want to categorize it based on a horror movie or just as a movie in general?
I think just rating it as a movie is
'Cause
more
if we're
interesting.
talking-
But you guys have this like
Yeah.
horror movie.
Yeah, I'd say
well-
just as a movie, it's a 9. But if we're talking a horror movie, this isn't really horror.
no, it's not a horror movie. Like I said, it's
more
horror.
we live in a society.
It's horror light. That's part
It's
of
a
why
monster
I
mash.
wanted to bring it up. Yeah,
I definitely
consider
recommend
monster
did
movies
the
to be a
mash.
very
I
specific type of
yeah,
horror.
I really enjoyed it. And if someone was like, "Hey, I want to watch a monster movie," I'd be like, "Boom, The Host." After Attack the Block,
Yeah.
I think I'd recommend Attack the Block first.
Yeah.
But this focuses
Yeah.
much
It
more on
was
the
a
monster than
graveyard
Attack the
smash.
Block. But yeah,
So we'll let you come back when we watch Attack the Block. Right?
I saw that movie when it came out at a screening, and I haven't seen it since. And I really want to see if it's held up.
Aw.
So you would probably come back in December.
That's fine.
If we
If the
Okay,
fact that you
that's
want
fine.
me to
Oh,
come
yeah.
back is great.
yeah,
Cool.
That's fine.
You can come back anytime. I don't
Alright.
care. It's
You
fun.
can come back for
Adds
the
another
Doctor Who
dynamic.
episode.
Sounds good.
You won't want to do that.
All right. Well,
It just if you watch more movies like The Black Sheep, then I'm out. I'm out. That
like I said, we're
Really?
doing bad movie, good movie,
Yeah.
bad movie, good movie.
yeah.
So
Ugh.
Yeah.
If I was on the Black Sheep podcast, I would have been like, I hated every moment. I was laughing, but I hated every moment, and I wish I didn't see it. That's my review of Black Sheep.
2 hours of my life
Yeah.
wasted.
Just. Ugh.
Listen, the image of him standing in the room, pantsless with a cigarette in his hand, is seared into
Yeah,
my brain.
no, that and
I don't
and
know
the
if that's a
scene
good
from-
thing or a
from
bad
Crash
thing.
4. I live in the same part of my brain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're at like an hour and
Yeah.
a half. Like an hour longer than normal.
You're welcome.
You're
Well,
welcome.
to be fair, I think it's more interesting because it adds a different dynamic to this versus the other Doctor Who podcast. Because
Yeah.
fucking talking more about the movie in different aspects. But whatever.
I mean, we could just invite Barry back for every movie.
If you want your podcast to be 3 times longer, then yeah, bring me on.
Sure.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
fine. Well, that's. I mean, this is monthly, so
Yeah.
I think it'd be fine to make it longer.
All right.
And
fine.
I don't care about fucking length. Anyway, bye.
All right. Bye.
You guys have a great outro, you know that?
Yeah, I know, right? We're great at this. Oh, okay. Well, what's coming up then, dear?
No.
Oh, well, I haven't, so I'll just keep talking without
Okay,
anyone
Deer
else can
can't.
hear me.
We can't hear Deer, but
Deer is... Yeah, we can't hear Deer, but it's just Barry and I
Welcome.
right now. So now, Deer is out of the podcast.
Deer's
Yeah,
in
so
Trony
next...
jail.
Yeah. So this will probably... I don't know when I want to fucking... It takes me a while to get to these things, because I'm very lazy. This will probably come out just before we do the next Doctor Who podcast, which is an Adventure in Space and Time biopic, which is really good and a tearjerker. Where Deer and I are going to try and do something with Spooky about anime. I don't fucking
You should
know.
you
We'll
should do
talk
these
more
like
about
a
it when
you
we
should do
find
these like a
out.
BBC presenter. You're like at 4 o'clock. Coming up next on BBC 4.
Coming up next on BBC 4, Deer and Gamb go through torture in Doctor Who.
There you go.
At 7 o'clock, Spooky forces Gamb and Deer to watch a specific anime.
And-
Find out what at 7 p.m.
And coming up at 8 o'clock on the hour is existential screaming.
Here's a sneak preview.
Now that's an outro. There you go. Alright.
Coming up next on BBC One.
Alright. I'm ending my recording.
Okay, we're done. We're done.